On this episode of Haltech Workshops, I've got something really special to show you. We're in Melbourne in a secret location and it's just down this alley. So this place is one of Melbourne's best kept secrets and I'm really excited to talk to Jason about what he does here at Renner Auto. Well, Jason, firstly, thank you so much for having us here at your secret lair in Melbourne.
No problem, thanks for coming out.
Firstly, let me say, this is a really cool workspace.
Thanks a lot. No, look, it's pretty comfortable. We do enjoy having it fairly neat and having everything at hand. People love coming out here to work. They like every aspect of it, except I think the clean up at the end of the day. We're pretty disciplined at keeping things clean. When we're grinding or welding, there's a bit of mess, but it's good fun.
This is a very different place to the workshops we normally feature on the Haltech workshops. Firstly, there's no dyno in here.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, so because you're a custom shop.
Correct. Look, we build cars, the whole car really. We don't do paint, we don't do dyno, and we don't build engines.
Of course, when I say a custom shop, I don't mean we pull out the English wheel and start on a bit of aluminium or something like that. You're actually very high tech.
Yeah, look, they're great skills and they still have a place in the industry today, and we utilise them. But I think the difference here is we start with a fairly digital process. It's about having a totally integrated approach to building the vehicle. You know, similar to what an OEM would do when they develop a vehicle. We really start with a scanning activity. So we scan the vehicles, get them in a digital model, we scan engines and other critical assets of the vehicle, windscreens and other fixed points, and then we really start assembling the vehicle as the client wants. We can set stance, engine position, radiator and intercooler position, so it's a really organised way of doing it.
You build the car in CAD digitally
100%.
So that you have a full plan of what's going to happen towards the end of the build.
Exactly, it seriously makes it a lot easier.
So it sounds like it's a fairly involved process. I don't want to ask how long does an average car take, because you don't build average cars.
Nothing's average.
But from start to finish, approximately how long would a vehicle take?
Yeah, and that's a fair question. I think the reality is we don't bring in 5, 6, 7 cars at once. That's another thing that we don't do. We don't want people to have the feeling that their car's getting pushed to the back, further to the back of the shop, and nothing happens. So we limit pretty tightly the number of cars we do. And in that way, for a fairly complex build, probably a year and a half's not out of the question. In reality, that's pretty quick.
Yeah.
And I think, the fact that you do a lot of digital work up front really helps towards the end of the project. You're not having to do things twice.
So you started Renner about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And in that time, what are some of the highlights and challenges that you've had building cars?
Yeah, I think the highlight really has been having the client come in and have an idea of what they want. And really it's been working with what idea they deliver to you and delivering the product. It's a real nice engagement with the client, a close relationship between what they want and what they can achieve. In terms of products, I think the Jaguar XJ13 was a real highlight.
Yeah.
A V12 engine mated to a Lamborghini Gallardo transaxle in a rear engine vehicle, from the 60s.
Yeah.
With an aluminium monocoque chassis. That was a great project. The thing was just wild and people would walk in and see it, and that was a crazy car. So I think from a powertrain point of view, that was definitely a highlight. So
if it's not too secret, can you tell me what you're working on at the moment?
Sure, yeah. We're having a lot of fun working on a Speedster recreation project. So it's basically a 1956 to later Speedster that was produced. And we've really worked with a supplier overseas to source some really critical body panels and other parts. And we're custom producing that here in Melbourne.
But mechanically, it's not much like a Speedster. It's an original Speedster.
Correct, yeah. Look, I think every car we build here is a classic silhouette on a thoroughly modern drivetrain and chassis system. And this car's no different. We're producing this as a series car, so we're getting a higher volume associated with the build, which helps a lot on cost and engineering investment. So There are a lot of different systems under that car that we're pretty proud of.
And this is a chassis that you actually designed yourself, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. So we've designed almost a semi-unibody fabricated chassis. So not just an RHS tube chassis, it's really quite a complex chassis. And it needs to be really for a lot of the ADR requirements that you need to achieve and pass for a low volume ICV type vehicle. The Subaru's using this car because it's very similar to what the original 4-cylinder horizontally opposed engine is. You know, it's a reliable engine if built properly. It's got lots of power, and as you can see, there's really not a lot of room to package this engine in the rear of that car. So it fits really well. This is an intercooled turbo, 2.5 litre EJ25 type power plant. Yeah. So on the interior of the car, we do follow a lot of the original design characteristics. There are some deviations for compliance and comfort, but overall, they're very authentic vehicles. So what we've done to make sure that the owner feels like they're getting into a vintage vehicle, the steering wheels are very authentic. We've gone to the trouble of having those rebuilt. There's a lot of little details in the interior that really evoke the feeling of a 1956 vehicle in a modern package.
So in the same sort of family, you've got this, that's an original Porsche.
Yeah, it's a Porsche 356A Coupe, and that vehicle is going to be another unique vehicle. And so those dots allow you to align each of the scan segments as you go around the vehicle. It guarantees a really high degree of accuracy. So the result of that scanning process really is you get, obviously, the vehicle in 3D. So this is this vehicle, and that's where you again start packaging the 911 motor, transaxle, seating position, and custom suspension elements in the vehicle. It's a really, really good way of doing it.
So this is the engine for the Coupe?
Yeah. Look, all the white dust over it, it looks like fire extinguisher, it looks like it's had a fire, but that's all the powder that helps the scanning equipment see get reflections and see the object. But this is another thing. So you scan all of the engine, you scan every aspect of the vehicle that's critical to the design. So this engine will be a terrific addition in that car. It'll have the I2Bs fitted. It'll be an outstanding engine.
It sounds like it's going to be really cool.
It's going to be really good. And they look great. You know, the air-cooled engine with the fan on it, you know, it's an iconic engine. And when you pop the back of that car open, we're really looking forward to that. Okay,
Jason, I'm not going to lie. These are all really cool projects, but they're not done. There's one car here that is done that I really want to see. It's your car, the GT40.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, look, I'm really proud of that car. It was a lot of time, a lot of effort, so I think we should definitely have a look at it. It's good fun.
All right, let's go.
Yeah, definitely.
So, Jason, I'm not going to disrespect you by calling this a kit car.
Yeah.
What would you call it?
Yeah, look, I call it a custom car. I mean, a kit car, some people can say it's a kit car, but, all it really was from RCR in this car anymore really is the aluminium monocoque chassis and the body panels. And they produce great products. But I really wanted to take it to the next level. So this has got really custom everything in it.
So you were saying everything else in it is custom?
Yeah, there's no real, it's not running Corvette suspension or doing anything like that. It's, a lot of just custom billet parts. When it came to the brake package, I designed up rotor hats and dog bones to hold the brake calipers, and that's all custom designed by myself, So it's it was an enjoyable, journey, this vehicle, definitely.
So you built this before Renner Auto was a thing. This was your hobby in your garage.
Pastime.
Yeah. For a number of years.
Yeah. So as a sensible person, my wife was pregnant and I decided to start building this car. So as soon as my first trial came along, I started building this car. And the number 7, it was completed when she was 7 years old.
Wow.
So it was quite a journey. But this was after work. I travelled a lot globally, so it was after work. It was relaxation, really, to just tune out.
Clear your mind.
At the workshop at home, I had a well-equipped workshop, and I'd go back there, put a bit of music on, and spend immense amounts of time at night just working on the car.
Wow.
It was great.
I want to know as much about this car as possible. Right, even just here at the front, I can see forward of the axle line, the front wheel axle lines. There's so much smart stuff going on just in here.
Yeah, look, it's a small car, so everything needs to be packaged pretty carefully. But in the front, the car's got AC, so we had to package a condenser, quite a large radiator, and then the vehicle sits quite low on the road. So we run a hydraulic lift system. So that's a hydraulic puck that sits on the fixed side of the coil, so it doesn't increase unsprung mass or anything like that. Similar to like what a Lamborghini or something has. So you push a button in the car and it raises the car,
so you can get over speed humps,
up driveways, all that sort of stuff without scraping. The car's got quite long overhangs, so that was critical to getting it really to be usable. And the car's got a fire system and other things. So it's really, again, it's really that tight, packed nature of really trying to fit everything in a small car. They're a tiny car, and we look huge standing next to them.
Yeah, well, it's 40 inches off the ground.
40 inches, I think.
GT40.
100%. I think this one's actually about 39 point something. I've gone a little lower, so it's a bit smaller than normal. But yeah, there's not a lot of room, so fitting everything in is definitely a fun challenge.
So this is the business end of the car, and as is a common theme that I'm seeing all over here at Renner Auto, thoroughly modern engine.
Yeah, very much so. Everything, is modern. I don't really have patience for old technology.
No?
No. Everything that can be modern, I definitely do modern. But latest Coyote, 5-litre engine.
That's out of a Mustang.
Correct. So it's a crate engine. It's an illuminator version, which has some better rods and pistons and stuff in it. And then I just changed the cams, put some stage 4 comp cams in it, which really give it a bit more breathing up high. I really don't relish a lot of low down torque. I prefer high end.
You want it to rev.
Yeah, I like the
breathe.
And it just sounds unbelievable.
It must sound unbelievable through the ITBs.
Yeah, look, I cop a lot of flack on long drives. Sometimes earplugs. It's a little loud. You do get a lot of noise, but on high revs, it's you hear the induction noise. You hear. I was told, by somebody that knows, what I'm hearing is the valves closing. You just hear that valve slamming shut through the induction because there's no path to...
Of course.
Yeah, there's no filter, there's no airbox, there's nothing, and it's right behind your head. So it's definitely sounds great.
And what other... So you made the ITBs?
No, so the ITBs were made by Innovate in Queensland.
Okay.
So they've made those. These are a bit different in that they turn a corner and face up. That was about a 30 horsepower or something penalty, but normally they come up vertically, but this is how it should be. So, again, it really wasn't about utmost power, it was really about how the whole package looks and sounds as well.
One thing that looks fantastic in the back here are these manifolds. That's your work.
Yeah, so again, that was really just hours of first purchasing many different centerline radius stainless steel tube bends, mandrel bends. So I think I used 6 different radii to get sort of like a curved, organic feel to that equal length type crossover system. But again, you just need a lot of time and patience, and I really enjoyed doing that. But you wouldn't want to do it every day, but it is good fun.
And what sort of transaxle have we got here? Yeah,
it's actually one of the more unique parts of the whole car. It's a Ford transaxle, so it was made by a company called Ricardo, and that was used in the 2006 Ford GT supercar. Okay. So I was able to obtain that out of a vehicle that obviously meant an untimely death, and you can't buy those from Ford, so that transaxle mates directly up to the Coyote motor and uses the OEM Ford GT supercar twin plate clutch system. So you've got a really nice progressive engagement. It's a really easy car to change.
Obviously this didn't come with the ITBs, as you said. They came from
Innovate.
That's right. How are you driving them? There's not a cable here.
That's right. Yeah. So it's running a drive-by-wire system in the car via the Elite 2500, and it's actuating the ITBs through a modified machined throttle body assembly. So the throttle body controls the linkages on the ITBs directly.
So you're using the factory drive-by-wire from the Coyote to drive-by-wire the ITBs?
100%. And what was critical there was actually, when setting up the ECU, was the acceleration rates so that you don't overdrive that assembly, because if you think about it, there's a lot more inertia on that motor assembly. So if you overdrive it too quickly, or you drive it as quickly as it's expecting to be driven, you'll probably burn it out. So again, we were able to tune that with the Haltech unit to make sure that we have a long-lasting solution, which we've had no issues with.
So you said it can get a bit noisy on the long drives.
Yeah.
But you do take it on long drives.
Yeah, look, it gets driven. It's a permanent vehicle. It gets driven on the road. I've taken on a lot of long drives. When I go to car shows, I never trailer it. I just drive it in, and it drives in the rain and just needs a lot more cleaning, when it's wet. But it's really streetable. It's a little loud, but apart from that, very comfortable. It's got AC, which is, I think I've mentioned before, but it's absolutely critical in a sealed cabin where you've got an engine that's mounted rigidly to an aluminium monocoque chassis. The heat soak can get a bit much.
Right, comes all the way through into the
aluminium's a great conductor of heat. It's got ceramic coated firewalls and all this sort of stuff, but it still does get fairly warm. So the AC is just a ripper AC. We spent a lot of time making a big evaporator under the dash, and it's a great system. It performs really well. But what that meant was a full custom serpentine layout on the front of the engine to relocate the alternator into the valley, like the old 5.4 engine, and then a very small compressor mounted down beside the engine. And all that had to be packaged in a very narrow chassis. So again, it was all packaging.
And still look good.
Yeah, and still look good. There's no tilt on the engine. It's horizontal. The temptation is to angle it to give yourself more room, but it's sort of a bit the easy way out. So you hide all of that stuff, the AC compressor and a lot of the plumbing, and you can still have something that looks great. It's the sort of car that everything's on show. You really don't have a lot of opportunity to hide anything in this car because nothing runs underneath it. It's all on top. It's just completely flat underneath. It's just a flat bottom.
Obviously, this car was designed as a race car back in the day and had fuel tanks. Well, it was an endurance race car.
Yeah,
Le Mans 24-hour truck race car. Big fuel tanks on the side here. Which I believe you've done some work to make them a bit safer.
Yeah. The chassis was designed to have those fuel tanks as an integrated part of the chassis, which is fine. But I've cut the chassis a fair bit at the front and modified it to get a second tank inside. So it's got basically a double skin tank system to make it, and it's foam filled to stop the fuel sloshing around a bit. But it just makes it a little safer. There's a second skin. The original cars had a bladder system, which is pretty safe too, but you've got to replace your bladders every 5 or whatever years. They degrade over time. So this was a better alternative for a long-term vehicle.
So that's one modification. Everywhere I look, there's stuff that you've done that's just smart to make this car work on the road, to make it last a long time. These little things here, the brake ducts that go down into there.
Thanks for saying it, but I think it's really about sitting back at the start of the project and thinking about all those details. I think that's the hardest thing at the start of a build, trying to plan out just those little details. And so on the brake cooling, I knew that I wanted to do brake cooling, and so making this duct, out of fiberglass by hand with a foam buck, and laying up the glass and allowing room for that when you're designing suspension or bracketry. Again, it really comes back to that whole integrated approach to completing the vehicle. And I did find that probably the most challenging part of it. But even the brake, the engine and trans coolers at the back, I wanted those symmetrical. I wanted them visible from the back of the car, which is a bit unusual. So allowing for that very early in the build was key as well. So I am proud of a lot of this work. I'm very happy with the result, and for a car that's done probably about 7,500 kilometres since it was built, I'm very happy. I remember plumbing the engine up with dry brake connectors between the fuel lines and the clutch and things like that, because I thought there's no way that I'll build this and not have the engine out in a month. Something's going to happen. And, touch wood. And it's never come out, so you spend all that money to make it easy to come out and fast, and thankfully it hasn't had to come out. So I'm very happy with that.
Well, Jason, I think you should be proud of the car. It is an amazing vehicle, and everything you do here at Renner is fantastic. So thank you so much for showing me through.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure.
So there you go. Renner Auto, this is another Haltech workshop feature. Remember, if you're doing some cool stuff with Haltech, we'd love to come and see your workshop. Send us an email. Until next time, my name's Richard. We'll see you then.